You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
Hello and welcome to another edition of New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwa, I'm your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. I hope you're staying inside, staying indoors, practicing social distancing, because we have a jam-packed show lined up for you here on Saga 960 AM. And as always, I'm excited to bring it to you each and every week. And on this week's episode, we have a bunch of different guests and bunch of different topics that we're going to be theorizing about. The first is we're going to be talking about the popularity over the last little bit involving Instagram and social media beat battles or sound clashes or whatever you want to call it, when you have two legendary music makers going up against each other with their respective catalogs. And if I'm going to be talking about beat battles, it only makes sense for me to have music producers as guests on the show. So I'm super excited to welcome from A Tribe Called Red, Tim Toolman Hill. He is one half of the duo with Bear Witness. And joining him, Tim and I, is another amazing producer that's Toronto-based. He actually just released a brand new album called Forever Is a Pretty Long Time. It is eloquent. And both of these individuals join me to not only talk about some of the battles that have taken place so far, but they also shed some light on battles that they'd like to see during this quarantine that we're currently in. As well, we theorize about what makes the perfect hip-hop beat. And it's a pretty intriguing conversation, as there's a lot that can be considered perfection when it comes to hip-hop. Is the perfect beat really around melody? Is it around simplicity? Is it around the way that it complements someone's lyrics? We talk about a bunch of these different things in a very cool conversation with two amazing music makers. And then we are joined later in the show by Jashnoor and Vidhi from the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council. They were another really great group that was the recipient of one of the Access charity grants that had been rewarded in early March through their Bright Ideas pitch competition. And the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council is a fantastic group that really promotes multiculturalism across communities and using multiculturalism as a way to unite individuals. And not only do we talk about the role that multiculturalism can play in someone's life early in sort of their development, but we also talk about the way that youth can still expose themselves to different cultures during this quarantine that we're in. Because a lot of what the BMYC was doing previously was really around events, was very around bringing people together and exposing them to various cultures. But now that we're all stuck inside, they're doing a fantastic job in thinking outside of the box and really providing perspective as to how they can continue on with their mission of promoting different cultures to the youth and gain them engaged at the same time. So we definitely talk about that. And then to close things off on this week's episode, I'm going to be joined by the artistic programmer from the Rose Theater in Brampton, our good friends over there. I have Danny Harvey, who's going to be joining me. He is, I would say, the lead when it comes to the This Is Brampton curation series, which has become a very popular programming aspect of the Rose Theater. And being that the Rose Theater, temporarily has shut down and has officially canceled their 2019-2020 season, they've now shifted their efforts towards focusing on live online programming. And this has allowed the This Is Brampton series to live online through the This Is Brampton live online series that is now out. And Danny and I talk about that in greater detail and just the importance of being able to not only provide musicians paid opportunities during this quarantine, but being able to showcase some of the amazing talent that a lot of people may not be familiar with here in Brampton. So it's a wonderful conversation, and Danny is also still looking for submissions. So we do have information in that segment regarding if you're a Brampton artist, how you can get involved in this series as well. A lot going on in this week's episode, but I really enjoyed putting it together. Like I mentioned, I hope you're staying indoors. I hope you're staying safe. Continue practicing social distancing. Turn the volume up and enjoy this week's edition of New Theory Radio. And we'll be right back after this brief commercial message with Toolman and Eloquent to talk beat battles here on News Talk Saga 960 AM.
Theory Radio.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk Saga 960 AM. My name is Navnan, I am your host, and this is the show we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. I'm very excited to have these next two beatmakers on the show. As you know, if you're a big fan of music, you've probably noticed on Instagram and social media a lot of these producer battles that seem to be taking place. We've seen the likes of Scott Storch take on Manny Fresh. We've seen most recently DJ Premier versus RZA. We saw Boy Wonder taking on Hit Boy, and even apparently this past weekend we're seeing Teddy Riley versus Babyface. So it's getting very, very competitive, and we're going deep into the crates. And if I'm going to be talking about producer battles, I got to get obviously two amazing producers on the show because I don't produce music, so I have no real merit to talk about it except from a fan standpoint. But the first individual I'm going to welcome here on the show, he was actually described by Noisy Magazine as being a pivotal part in emphasizing the varied influences of beat music in regards to pushing the genre into new and previously unthinkable spaces. He has a new album out called Forever Is a Pretty Long Time, which features some favorite MCs of mine, including Guilty Simpson and Blue. And he's been known to be influenced by the likes of Jay Dilla and DJ Premier. And he's representing Mellow Music Group. I got Eloquent here on New Theory Radio. Eloquent, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Damn, with that intro before you brought up the album, I thought you were talking about him. But that's neither here nor there.
Hey, let's talk about the person I'll be sharing the panel with you. He is one half of A Tribe Called Red. He represents the Six Nations of the Grand River. Him and Bear Witness, their album We Are the Halusa Nation went on to win a Juno for Producer of the Year. Plus, they were shortlisted on the Polaris Prize. And his Mississauga Brampton connection is that he executive produced Hovaya Mighty's album 13th Floor, which did win the Polaris Prize in 2019. And Hovaya is also an alumnus of New Theory Radio. I got Tim Toolman Hill. Toolman, thanks so much for joining us, man. Long overdue.
Yes, sir. It's about time.
Yeah, man. I'm super excited to talk to the both of you. Not only are you guys beat makers, but you guys are also wrestling fans, and we have been talking about wrestling for quite a bit over the last few weeks. So I'm definitely going to get you guys' thoughts on some of the stuff that's been taking place most recently. But before we get into that, beat battles. It seems that a lot of these battles have been taking place. I feel like every Saturday or Sunday there's a beat battle on someone's IG that either Swiss Beats or Timbaland have organized, and it's really showcasing some great entertainment for a lot of us that are stuck inside and not able to go to live shows, not able to go to clubs. But wanted to get both your perspectives, and maybe Eloquent will begin with you. Being someone that's actually competed, actually both you and Toolman have competed in beat battles in front of audiences and all across, the GTA and the world. What is your thoughts on this craze that's taking place, and do you like it?
I like it overall. I have, I guess, some mixed feelings about certain aspects of it. Primarily, I guess it's, all of these IG Live battles are promoted just as such, as battles. When really, I feel like maybe the proper term should be maybe sound clash, perhaps. So while it's, I was as excited as everyone else to, see that Primo versus RZA.
Yeah, amazing.
And it was definitely really nice to hear all those classics again, like back to back. And I think you almost forget for an instant, or for a moment of time, just how much these guys have done for hip hop, for the culture. Especially in the case of Premier, like, dude's discography is just crazy, and then RZA with all of his Wu-Tang stuff. Personally, I wish that each of them would have played, even in part, like some stuff from the vaults that none of us have heard. As much as I always love to hear what's one of the songs or whatever that they played. I don't know.
Cream.
Right. But I guess I'm just used to, like, beat battles in the sense that either, you give me a sample and I flip it and you're hearing what I did for the first time, or you're hearing something that isn't that I personally haven't played thousands of times from home. But maybe that was unrealistic to expect. But for what it was, it's definitely been entertaining, and it's especially cool. Like, I know in that Primo and RZA battle that I think at one point they got to almost 200,000 viewers. And the comments were just a who's who of, like, everyone in the game who I, like, grew up on, be it, Busta or Noriega or Alchemist or Fat Joe or...
Apparently Jay-Z's burner account was in there too.
Right. So that's dope to see, because I think, we don't really... I guess maybe not enough. We don't really get a chance to just appreciate, their contributions in a society where, there's just so much music, so much stuff. So it's kind of easy to forget. So, they've certainly served as good reminders, and hopefully for some of the younger viewers, who didn't grow up in the 90s, that, they know that these guys are legends for just the hundreds and hundreds of certified classics that they put up.
Yeah, Tool Man, what are your thoughts, man? Because I think I'll hit on a lot of great points there.
Yeah, I'm with him 100%. Like, that's kind of bad. I grew up on B battling, so, like, B battling is a lot different than what it is right now and on Instagram. But there's definitely some awesome positives to, like, I guess, to this quarantine that's been going on, and, like, this is one of them. People are coming together and doing it for the culture, and, like, making it kind of must see. It's not TV, but it's like entertainment, I guess.
Straight must-see viewing, man. It's like you get FOMO if you weren't there live to take it in.
That's right. And it's a moment in time where you get to comment and get to, like, and just this is 2020. If there was anything positive about 2020 thus far, this would be one of the things, like, being able to, I mean, just the RZA and Primo thing alone. That thing, that whole interaction between two people, getting to see, like, RZA's weirdness, and getting to see, like, Premier's so humble, and, like, being able to, like, being a fan of RZA, and then him being, like, and then having RZA being, like, I was coming for your head, and having these inner conversations about these records before, like talking about these records or what these records at a time, like describing, like having conversations with each other about these records before they came out.
That was probably the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, the conversations in between.
Yeah, nice. Well, especially those two. Like, it's a little different with the rest of them, but like those two, like you kind of expected it from both of them, and they both came out like with personalities that we knew that they had. Like, there was nothing surprising about how they were acting at all. We knew RZA was gonna like act a certain way. I'm surprised that he didn't do the stream from a dojo or like
or he did an Afro Samurai on in the background, which I thought
did. But like even him describing like even him like getting like some social conscious stuff like in the conversation, talking about like the virus and how it shouldn't be viewed, and talking about like flocks of butterflies, like like in the city, stuff like that, like like these are things that he's thinking about. And like it was great to have like just an unfiltered version of those two having a conversation. And although, because RZA isn't tech savvy at all when it comes to this new world, which is weird because he's Bob Digi, but like but like
didn't want to use an iRig.
Yeah, bro, he was on it. He wanted the iRig so bad. Yeah, and it looked, but that's RZA. Yeah. That's just, we've all known this is him. This is how he was gonna be. Like, we knew this. Yeah. But yeah, the conversations and stuff was good. But watching two people that I grew up on and big fans of influenced me like tremendously. Having conversations about music in a geeky way, the way it was presented, was awesome. And like, but the other battles, I wasn't as satisfied as the other ones as I was with this one. This one was like, I felt like this one was, maybe it's because they've had a couple, they had to get a couple out of the way first in order for it to get to this level.
Yeah.
But this one meant a lot. Like this one just felt like it had a lot of purpose, and it showed, because I think almost like 900,000 people tuned in for like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and as a music fan, I think this was the only one that I watched in full, to be honest, because again, it is two legends that are playing each other's legendary catalogs. And again, the other battles were cool, and I probably tuned in just to a bit just to see what was going on, but they didn't really drive my attention too much. And part of the feedback that's been coming through regarding these battles is that there's a lack of criteria, or there's like a lack of are they going too long, like should they actually define okay, you play your best feature, I'll play my best feature, or you play your best sample of this, I'll play my best sample of that. Because some people feel like they're free-for-alls, and especially it coming out of the Scott Storch Manny Fresh battle, which I think originally it was supposed to be Scott Storch versus T-Pain. So it was supposed to be like a producer versus a hitmaker, which is kind of weird. But originally they got Manny Fresh in there, and I know there's been a lot of controversy coming out of that, because Scott Storch apparently played records that he co-produced with Dr. Dre. So do you guys feel like criteria should be set before these battles take place, or do you like the free-flowing nature of it?
It's hard because they're legends, bro. Like Scott's, you cannot knock that Scott Storch is not like a very important person to hip hop.
Yeah,
no way you could make that argument. Doesn't matter if he's a co-producer or not. Like, he's written things that is going to live forever, and we got to give him his just due. And Manny Fresh like brought New Orleans bounce to hip hop. I mean, that influence there, like you can't, like, there's no way that you could. And then how do you tell a legend or someone who's like a important person that they have to follow rules when they've never followed rules their entire lives as far as producing? And telling a producer to follow rules is a really hard thing to do, because we all do things in really ridiculous ways. Like, sometimes it's quicker, sometimes it's more, like, I feel like the way that I do stuff is like it could probably be faster, but like, you know, but I'm stuck in my ways and this is the way it is. But as far as battle goes and stuff like that, yeah, it's just more or less entertaining. It's weird. It's like, even though I want a winner and loser, I feel like that doesn't matter. I mean, like, before we move on to that kind of thing, who do you think won the RZA and Premier battle?
Ooh, I'll let Eloquent answer that before I answer it from a fan standpoint.
I mean, I guess if, basing it solely off of, just what they played in that particular battle, personally, I thought Primo edged it, but it's but if somebody tells me that no, like RZA got that, I'm not gonna fight them about it.
Yeah,
because honestly, DJ Premier and like those old Wu-Tang records, even more so than like Dilla. I mean, those two might have had the biggest, just impact and influence on me. So, this is kind of like the choose your favorite child question.
Exactly.
And although, to be fair, since you brought up the controversy, of Scott Storch, I guess playing a co-produced song, RZA did play Brooklyn Zoo, which is a true master production.
Oh, wow.
In the interest of fairness, thought I'd throw that out there. that played no role in my enjoyment of it. Because I saw people in the comments with their scorecards like, I got RZA 7-5, or round 2, I give the 10 to Primo and RZA the 9. Like it's a
UFC fight.
right. But so I don't have it in me to go sort of just round by round like that, since you could shift the orders of some of these songs and get different outcomes. I just sort of take it in as a whole, and I think that Primo just had a deeper, more versatile catalog.
Yeah, I'd say for myself, I do agree with you, Eloquent. Like, I found that RZA, you can't deny RZA's catalog from, I guess, 93 up until 2000. Like, I think those classic albums that came out of that camp, like, literally, I thought that's what really drove a lot of his selections.
Yep.
I've always been a big Primo guy. Like, as much as I'm a big Wu-Tang fan, I'm also quite equally, or if not a bit more, of a Premier Gang Starr fan. And also, I would say Premier, like, I think about my favorite rappers like Nas, Jay-Z. Like, there's pivotal Primo records.
All of their best records.
Yeah.
A lot of times are Primo records.
Yeah, and I just felt like Primo showed more depth in a way, if it made sense, in regards to, or more like, again, like you had Primo drop like a Mos Def Mathematics record, and then he played So Ghetto by Jay-Z. Like, those are two different records, but again, they showed how diversified he was. Toolman, what did you think?
I'm gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to say RZA.
Oh,
but yeah. Now this is war. But like that. But the reason why is more or less like it's because I just kind of like looked at all the records, like how I popped to them, how I popped. If I popped to them, and that's those it was, and I just like, there was some stuff that RZA played, I was like, nah. But you know what? Then like but I appreciate Primo's like production. Like, there's no winner really. But
yeah.
I gave RZA the W because I was like, it was really in that final 20 minutes that really, like, he slapped them up. Like, he played Triumph, he played It's Yours, he played these crazy records that are like, that I've played over and over and over and over and over again, like in growing up. And that's all it was. Like, that's really all it was for me.
Bro,
but
I had Primo, like, you know, with a slight edge.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, what RZA threw on Assassination Day, and like I damn near fell out of my chair.
Oh,
that's insane.
That might have been the hardest joint between both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was crazy.
If we're gonna talk about the hardest record they dropped, who had the hardest record? Like, out of all the records, RZA definitely, I think, got above him a little bit. Though it's like it's hard to, like, because he didn't, like, but here's the thing. Sound selection, man, like song selection has a big deal to do with this. And I feel like out of this whole beat battle that's happened through all of them, only one group have really done it right, where you've heard everything that you wanted to hear from them. And that's Lil Jon and T-Pain. That's the second one that I really liked out of all of them.
Really? I thought you would have said Boy Wonder and Hit Boy.
Nah, man, because even them, like, I respect, because there's joints that Hit Boy has done that I really love, like deep cuts that I really love, and there's joints that Wonder did that I really love. But I liked that they played unreleased music. That was cool.
Yeah,
that's a cool element that, like, really got me. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but this isn't the first time these beat battles happened. There was one that Just Blaze and Swiss Beats did a couple of years back.
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and then Just Blaze and Alchemist too. I think.
And then no, Just Blaze and Alchemist. I don't think they've never done anything like that before.
I thought there was a video circulating of.
That was from Big Tune. They invited when they went to LA.
Yeah.
They invited Alchemist and Just Blaze on stage, and
okay.
There, and Jake One was their friend, so it's like, we're gonna get the guys, you know, do it, and Alchemist slapped them up, which was crazy to think that could happen. But you know what? In the same way that Primo did the Boom, explain like how we did like a show version of Boom. Did he do that in the battle?
Yeah,
right?
he played Boom by Royce. Yeah.
No, but he broke it down like how he made it.
I know he did that for 10 Crack Commandments.
Yeah, that's what it was. Is 10 Crack Commandments.
Played the sample, and then I've seen him do that live actually at Bastards Barbecue a few years ago.
Yeah,
he did that live, and I remember just being like, and that's the stuff I love, man. I love when they're able to take their sample and mix it in.
Yeah, but then like the first time he did the battle though, Swiss Beats kind of had a hard time. Like he was pressing like the cue points like really on the first battle that he ever did with Just. I don't know if you guys you should look it up. It's pretty hilarious. But Swiss Beats played an unreleased DMX, Jadakiss, Styles P, and someone else.
Was it Nas or Jay-Z?
Might have been Nas.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, where the hell is the song? It still hasn't come out yet.
Yeah.
So like, you know, like that element to it is kind of cool. But yeah.
So to that point, and being that you guys are producers in the game, do you have a dream battle that you'd love to see pop up over the next few weeks, being that we're so bored and we're feeding for this content?
I think the only thing I'd want to see is like Just Blaze posted a video up of Prodigy after that Swiss Beats and Just Blaze battle that they had. Just Blaze posted this video up that Prodigy did just before he passed away. Yeah. And he said that, that battle was so inspiring, but now I have to see it. Alchemist versus Havoc.
Oh, wow.
Once that kind of got into my head, I was like, that kind of needs to happen now. And I've been trying to figure out who could battle Al. And
I thought Just Blaze could. Just Blaze could, no?
No. I mean, Just Blaze already battled. He can't battle again. Like, that's it. Yeah, but I think that it would have to be either him or Madlib. I think that's it.
Well, I think on Twitter, someone pitched to him like, you should do Madlib versus Alk, and he basically came out and said, no, like I'll get washed.
Yeah.
I did want to see that, and then I was talking to the buddies about it, and one of my buddies brought up a good point that it probably wouldn't be a good battle because they're even though they're both from LA, they're still quite different. Like it's to the conversation we had earlier, Eloquent, when before we started the interview about some of the battles you've been in. It's like how do you compare a gritty Alchemist beat to like a soulful Madlib track, right? That's more head bobbing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that the suggestion of Alchemist and Madlib battling is predicated more just on, like on their statuses and their clout, so to speak, because from a stylistic standpoint, like it doesn't really make sense.
If that happens, Freddie Gibbs needs to referee it.
That would be great.
I know that Madlib can get in his bag sometimes with like some of that really, really hard.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm sure that he's got a hard drive somewhere with a grip of those that no one's ever heard. But what makes Madlib so special is that, like the line between hip hop and jazz or soul or whatever he's doing is just so blurred. Yeah. And I don't know if that would make for an interesting battle from that standpoint. But then again,
what are we really talking about? At the end
of the day, however way we dress it and sort of discuss the the rules of the battle or stylistically, ultimately people just want to just see their favorite producers just play beats.
Yeah.
So while that's not a battle that I personally am starving for, I mean, if they decide to do it, I'm definitely going to be tuning in, and I'll definitely watch the hell out of it. No doubt about it.
Tool Man, what about you, man? What's a dream battle?
Yeah, that would be it. The Havoc and Alchemist. I really want to see that, and I'd love to hear it just because of just for the sake of that Prodigy asked for it. And like, cool. And I'm a sucker for things that mean things. I'm a really big sucker for things that mean something. And like, hearing those two going together would be good. Because honestly, like for Madlib, I keep going back and forth with it. I don't think there's a producer out there that could see him like the way that he needs to be pushed to have a sound clash with. Aside,
the only one that isn't alive.
Isn't here.
Yeah, it's Dilla. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And like even if you had Illa J picking records for Dilla to do against Madlib, it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Like, you'd have to get like House Shoes to do it, and you'd have to, or someone like that, someone with a little bit more of a,
it's like a connection.
Yeah, you'd have to do it like that. But aside from that, nah, man, because it's just too deep. Like, to me, some of my favorite Madlib beats aren't hard at all. They're just like, they take you places, and that's all it would be for me. And so having a competition where Alchemist makes me feel like I legitimately want to boost the crime rate. Like, I want because I want to be violent. Like, and it's good because it's like I make beats like that sometimes where I feel really aggressive and I really want to get that aggression out. And it feels nice to like put it onto something down. But here, Alchemist, like he's the architect almost of that specific sound. I'd be more interested in hearing like DJ Quick going against like, I don't know, like
Battle,
or like Jelly Roll doing something around there, like, just like, or Frederick, like I'd rather, or even DJ Khalil, like he's a beast in his own right. Like I would like he would kind of like, he's an aggressive prog rock kind of like producer who's done really big records, but like we're talking about like 20 records at least these guys have been pushing.
I think for me, as like in the same vein of RZA and DJ Premier, like I'd love to see like a Q-Tip versus Pete Rock, like something that in that era again. And
sure.
and I think there's enough there where you can get Q-Tip to play obviously a lot of Tribe stuff, but then he can also play some of the stuff he's done for like Nas or even some of the more recent stuff. Pete Rock could probably do the same too, and I think that would be kind of cool from a culture standpoint. But yeah, man, it's funny because I think being that we're all like wrestling fans as well, like there's this competitive nature that exists, and I look at this as as being a crossover of, you know, the pro wrestling styles coming into hip hop and seeing, you know, who the best really is.
In my opinion, there's a lot of parallel, and like you said, crossover, just between just hip hop or specifically what we do as producers and you know, just kind of the pro wrestling landscape. And you know, sometimes I sort of think of, you know, when I put a record together and I say to myself, cool, I got this album, how do I get myself over? And I sort of I catch myself like using pro wrestling terms like just to myself, and I don't know, and maybe that's part of the reason why I've really gravitated towards it, at least more than earlier on in my life, at least now that I've become a quote-unquote smart fan.
Yeah.
Aren't we all now, right? Hey, Wrestling Gun made it cool, right?
That's the thing. Like, there was a time in my life where I was like, I wasn't ashamed of being a wrestling fan, but like, I just wouldn't go and tell people this kind of stuff all the time. Like, it would be something I would just kind of keep to myself. And but like, after, like, you know, there's a period of I just didn't care anymore. And I think it was like, you know, finding out like people like, with the day that I heard that Eloquent was a wrestling fan made me love him even more than I did, you know, because it's like, it's just like, it's there's a certain thing, it's like, oh, you like this, like, and like you have like these questions you ask people, so like who's your favorite wrestler, and like hearing that, like coming from, and then them saying like the typical answer, you're thinking like, oh, I like Stone Cold. I'm like, oh yeah, Stone Cold's dope, you know, he's alright. But if someone ever said like, yo, Okada, I'd be like,
right? That's my point.
You know, Okada's the man.
New Theory Radio.
Before we jump into some wrestling talk, you know, we like to theorize here on New Theory Radio, and honestly, I want to put you both on the spot. A lot of the conversation that's taken place with these beat battles obviously involves, you know, what makes the perfect beat, and I'd love to get your theories on that. Like, when it comes to a hip hop beat, what do you think is needed for it to be perfect? And do you have any examples, whether it's your own work or whether it's the work of someone you're a fan of what a perfect beat is?
That's hard. I'll let you deal with it, because like
no, it's a really, really hard thing to define. I mean, I could say, you know, look, the drums need to be smacking, but I can think of Mad Lib records that don't have drums at all, that, you know, that I'm wearing out as if it's got the hurt on it. You know, like me personally, I mean, my style is very melodic, I'd say. So, you know, I'm a sucker for like chord progressions and things like that. But then, you know, I think of like, you know, old Neptune's Clips records that are just grungy and don't really have a melody, but you know, that shit makes me want to like punch a hole through the wall. You know? So I guess in a roundabout way, it's just I have to just like feel it in my chest. You know, like, I guess, you know, it's like I hear beats sometimes, you know, where folks send me some stuff or link me things to listen to, and it sort of checks off many of the boxes as far as why I should like it, but, you know, something is just missing.
Yeah.
It just might not have that heart, or just doesn't have that soul into it, and it's like, it's good, but I don't want to listen to it again. So I guess in a roundabout way, you know, there's always exceptions, but I don't know. It just has to just speak to me, and especially if there's like vocals to go along with it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes there's some beats that on their own I just really don't like, but all it takes is like the right vocalist or the right MC to make me just rethink. Just rethink the beat. Like the first time I heard "Grindin" by Clips.
Yeah.
I kind of just scratched my head. Like, this is kind of, it's kind of just empty. Like, it's
just drums, right?
Yo, it's drums.
It's stock Triton sounds.
Exactly. And if not for, a Pusha T and Malice, just going in on it, maybe I don't regard it as the classic that it is. And you can say that about a lot of those Clips discography songs. I think they're a very interesting case study for me personally, as far as, like, based on my general tastes, I shouldn't like this, but I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Love this sound.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's I can resonate even as a fan of more soulful hip hop, that I'll always hold the Clips discography like in high regard, because again, it's just something so gutter and nasty and real about that sound that just makes you, again, it's funny that Toolman was talking about how when he hears Alchemist, he wants to boost the crime rate, because like I find that with Clips, it gives you that raw feeling of like, yeah, this is it.
Right.
Music is a very manipulative tool, actually, that people have been using. People use like stuff for mind control and stuff like that. Like it's a very powerful thing. And like, so it can invoke emotions. It can make you cry. It can make you feel joy. But I think that when it comes to the perfect beat, like, you can make the perfect beat, but like, I think that it's like what the beat maker becomes the producer. That's like the final journey, I think, for as far as a beat maker could go. I think it's like you start with a certain sound, and then you starting to believe in yourself. But it's also like, one of my favorite producers right now, his name is Kenny Beats. I really like Kenny a lot. Yeah, only because he has this mantra that he has where he's like, don't overthink it. So like, that's mantra that he's been kind of doing his music by. He only has records that, he uses sounds that are very accessible to everybody. He doesn't really, I haven't really heard anything that he's like typically created that's like his sound, but everything that he uses from Splice or whatever like that, how he puts it together, it actually does sound like him. Like, it's unmistakable that you know that it's him. Mm-hmm. And like, when you have that, that's when I think that's when that perfect beat kind of comes into play. And it's like it's a combination of your ear, combination of feeling, and combination, I think, of just letting it go. It's very interesting that you're talking, Alchemist, but you were talking about you were talking earlier about the records that you made that, like, they kind of made the record, but you were on the fence about.
Yeah.
But those records are probably like stuff that's just like, you weren't overthinking it too much, and they have a vibe and they sound good. But it's like, like, it's crazy knowing that, I think that's how it goes. I don't think, like, and then once you kind of develop that sound, like Pharrell and the Neptunes did, anything that you do kind of becomes like the perfect beat after a while. But maintaining that and keeping that is the test that we see all of our favorite producers kind of go through.
Yep.
All of them do, like Primo included. Man, I can arguably say that a Primo beat these days don't hit is how it hit back in the day, and that's because maybe he changed the way he mixes. Maybe he just wants to grow, and maybe he wants to do different things. RZA included, and like. There's these monsters like Pharrell. I can even say that, I love Dr. Dre. My favorite producer, probably. And but his sound over the last little bit has definitely been like dwindling. Like it hasn't been as big as it used to be.
Yeah.
And but I'll still love his stuff. But like, you know, but like I just think that sound kind of like it goes away after a while. Like, you know, like unless you're like a monster like Pharrell. And we can probably say the same thing about Kanye. Kanye can make things these days that sound awesome. I don't know how he does it. Like when I think that he loses grip on things, like he somehow comes back and he
Dude,
like
Daytona is just
you know what I mean? Well, even off his new record, he did this record. Like I know he gets a lot of other producers to work with.
Follow God. Follow God was a good one.
Oh my gosh! Like there's like I you know what? There's so many times I just want to like write Kanye off. Like, you know, I love Kanye. I loved growing up with him, like his music and stuff. But you just can't deny that he has something that has the ability to like know when things sound good and like knows how to make it sound even like that upper echelon, like that next level. And because he's an artist, he's able to really see it through all the way through. I've always wondered how a Kanye West instrumental album, aside from the one he did for College Dropout, but if he made an instrumental album, I've always wondered how that would sound, because I think it would sound great. Because if you listen to the Dr. Dre instrumental for the Chronic album, it's incredible. Mm-hmm. Sonically, it's incredible. If you listen to Madlib, he's making, like, if you listen to any of his beat tapes, they sound amazing.
Yeah.
If you hear anything that's been curated by the producer themselves and made specifically for it, Donuts is a masterpiece. You know what I mean? Like, if you ever just take those in, like, those are the perfect beats. So it has to do with, like, there's beats that people make there specifically for artists, and then there's when you were like someone like Eloquent who makes music and you don't need an artist on it. It's finished. That is the perfect beat. I think when you're the artist and the producer, beat maker, all rolled into one, and if you can make that thing live on, breathe on its own, like, that's the perfect beat. But also there's the perfect beat for other people. But that's where the producer thing comes in. You bring in another artist, and you know who works with what. And like, I don't know, it's really, really hard. But like, that's kind of where I get at it. I think there's a Jedi level to have producers.
The Jedi mind trick.
You only need like 4 or 5 sounds. Like, you don't need a lot. Like, we've seen it with Premiere, we've seen it with Ninth Wonder, we've seen it with Madlib. Madlib 2 tracks everything, man. Like, and he's making things on iPads these days. Like, you know, like, there's like, it's just, it doesn't matter like how you get there, but it's
I think that's the trap that a lot of producers, myself included, sometimes fall into, where like my biggest weakness, I can say, as an artist is that, you know, you sort of fall into these spells where you're working on a song, and I mean, if I showed you like the session files for even the last beat that I'm working on, and there's literally like 30 different channels, 40 different things going on all at once, and you know, literally some of like the best songs like received on my last album, or literally just on some 2 tracks, have a sample, I just have the drums and then maybe a bass line and call it a day. But, you know, I think sometimes you sort of feel pressure to just do more and more in order to A, stand out, and B, just to sort of make yourself believe that, you know, everything needs to be bigger. And honestly, less is more a lot of the time. You know why as much as I love, say, Mr. Carmack and all like the just insanity that's happening on all of his songs, you know, I also listen to, you know, like Knowledge's last album, where, you know, he's literally just looping like a 16-bar loop with like just a simple drum track on it, and it's perfect, you know. So I don't know. So trying to sort of find the balance between, you know, just keeping it simple and just letting that speak on its own versus just always just piling on and And, and sometimes there's diminishing returns in doing that when a song is too busy. But it's definitely a different, for me anyways, on the last album, it's a different sort of process and feel, doing a record primarily built around like vocalists versus just doing your own instrumental record. Because you can kind of get away with doing more and bigger things, but I find that it sometimes takes away from the vocalists in other instances. So there's definitely a balance to be met. I don't always find that balance, but trying to get better with it.
Are perfect beats usually timeless?
Yeah.
If it's perfect, yeah, it should be.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So I have a question for both of you. Well, what is a song? What is a song that you think is a perfect beat? The perfect song, perfect beat. I have one, and I just kind of keep in mind it's really different. But like, I have a lot of them, but the one that it's in my head right now is James Blake Retrograde.
Ooh, I was actually listening to that like a couple of days ago, and dude, the way it builds up,
it's perfect to me. It's perfect.
Perfect beat, man. Oh, I probably have to go. You know what, man? What am I gonna go with?
Yo, you can go so many ways.
I know. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think what I've been digging in the crates lately, especially after this RZA Primo battle. Just listening to a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
Like "Can I Live" by Jay-Z. Like I think just the way that he's rapping and like I listen to that track and I feel like I'm in mid-90s New York with Jay-Z and his homies just like conspiring, right? And I think the way the beat was made and the way he's rhyming on it, it's really takes you on a journey that the music doesn't overpower the lyrics, but the lyrics don't outshine the beat. So when I listen to that song, I just feel like it just allows me to zone right into what's going on in the situation.
Well, speaking of Jay-Z, and to answer your question, that I just thought of, one of my favorite Jay-Z songs, and it's one of my favorite songs, period, is Lost Ones, that he did. And that kind of just goes to what I was talking about before, where it's just that perfect balance of just simplicity and he's telling like a really good emotional story on it. You've got like a really simple piano loop that has like the little like vocal at the end of the 16, and a simple drum track. And I feel like it was probably a pretty quick and a pretty easy beat for Dr. Dre to make, but I feel like if there was even one more sound on that song, it would have ruined it.
Even Otis with Kanye and Jay, like literally, isn't that just Kanye just chopping up a sample and that's it? Like not even adding anything else to it.
Adding an 808. That's it. Yeah. He added an 808, I think.
And again, even you play that now, it takes you on that journey. But then you realize when you hear like the original Otis Redding song, it's literally like the same song. Like he just chopped up the beat.
But we can all agree that Otis Redding song is fire too. So
yeah, exactly.
And there's some
fire.
Like there's some Ghostface songs. One in particular, the name of it escapes me.
Nutmeg. Supreme Clientele.
Well, and a newer one than that, where he literally just took like an old like I don't know if it was like a Teddy P record or something. But you just took like the whole song and he's just rapping over it.
Was it Superman Lover? No, Superman. No, that's Redman. But he rapped on. I feel like it was on the Big Door Rehab.
Like literally, like no chopping or anything at all. Like there's still vocals like coming in on the background. Like he just doesn't.
Probably just EQ'd the bass to come up a little bit more. A little bit. Yeah.
And And I used to be one of those guys who's like, man, like looping's so lazy. And if you're a producer, you should be chopping, you should be doing yada yada yada. And and you sort of come to realize, like, man, so many of like certified classics were literally just loops with a drum track added to it. And I think that there is a real beauty and even like a discernible skill in being able to, in order to to one, pick out the right loop, and having the restraint to not chop it or to not add 8 more layers to it when it's not needed.
Yeah.
So
knowing when to hold back.
Exactly. And sometimes, like I said, like I listen to stuff on SoundCloud, and it's like this is really dope, but if you took away those 18 different synths that are just like all stacked on top of each other, like this is the perfect beat, ideally, So, so I guess like you said before, there's no rules, so to speak. But I'm personally coming to realize, less is more. I mean, I try not to overdo it with just like simple loops, but sometimes I hear something and, I listen to it a few times. I'm like, well, if I chop it this way, and then I kind of just come back and I'm like, you know what? No, F that. Like, this is literally perfect the way that it is. And I'm, I'd be doing it a disservice if I threw all this extra crap on it just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah. You know what? Like, just before we go, we'll move topics, but I wanted to say that, the Lost Ones record that you're talking about, one of my favorite records, and there's one more record that hits me just as hard as that, and it's Imagine.
Yeah.
That Imagine's kind of the same kind of formula.
With John Lennon?
Right?
It's with D'Angelo, Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
D'Angelo, Snoop Dogg, and Dre. Yeah.
You imagine.
Yeah. That was on the Snoop album. I remember that. Yeah. That was when D'Angelo started creeping back up again.
Yeah. But hearing, like, certain people with Dr. Dre just sound amazing.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree.
Hands down. You know what? Just to switch gears a bit, guys, before I let you guys go, obviously, we mentioned off the top, you guys are big wrestling fans like I am, and we have been talking wrestling over the last few weeks. And, we lost the great this week. We lost the legend Howard Finkel, and we'd love to, RIP indeed. Would love to open it up. Feel free to share a favorite Fink memory. I think for me, that clip was being aired quite a bit this week, but I think when you announced CM Punk at Madison Square Garden was pretty awesome. I remember only seeing the version that was live at the Survivor Series at the time, just like off TV. But Toolman, I think you retweeted the live video, which makes it even better. But I actually met the Fink. I went to Wrestle Reunion in 2012, which was like right near the airport. And the Fink it was like a big wrestling convention. It's funny, but also sad to know that some of those wrestlers that were there are no longer with us. But he was like hosting it. So imagine like you see Howard Finkel walking around in like a full 3-piece suit with the microphone, and he's just like emceeing, like saying, "Oh, go to that table, and so is signing autographs there, and pay attention to the ring as we're gonna have live action." And he was literally just walking through everybody, just greeting people and just on the microphone, and just seemed like the most awesomest guy. But I'll open it up if you guys want to share a quick memory to honor the Fink. Feel free.
I mean, he was like the Michael Buffer, pro wrestling. So I don't know if there's like a specific story, so to speak, but
Who did you like him announcing winning or whatever? Who was your favorite one?
I don't know if I have so much of a favorite, but just hearing him say like "and new."
Oh yeah,
it's just always added so much just gravitas to it. I'm thinking possibly the night that HBK won the world title for the first time.
Is that 12?
Yeah, WrestleMania 12, yeah.
That's huge. The boyhood dream, all of that. That's probably the one that comes to mind first.
Yeah. Tool Man, what about you, man?
I'm in the same boat. That's the one. That's what I was gonna say. I have 100%. Only because he got to say two people that I really, really love. I really love the way he used to say, Bret Hitman Hart. Like that was when he did that. But he did Shawn Michaels really good too.
Yeah.
And he added so much to it. And like when he retired, it was like it's still been missing. We haven't really had someone like that. And I know they've been saying like he's been the voice of pro wrestling, as far as like announcers. But I think that I think that we should be putting him up there as like of all announcing. He would have killed it in UFC. He would have killed it in like boxing. Boxing, he would have killed it in boxing if there wasn't someone already there like Michael Buffer. But like, yeah, man, he's a guy that I didn't realize, but they were showing clips of him like pre-1984, like before WrestleManias, and and watching him announce Bruno and like and all the way
Graham and yeah.
Yeah, and it's wild seeing all these old clips of him announcing.
But boys, this has been an awesome chat. I don't think the listeners know that we've been talking for close to 2 hours. and I think the first hour was like a masterclass on just beat battles and beat making that I just took in, and I'm definitely going to save that for a future show. But Toolman, Eloquent, thanks again for joining us. What is the best way to connect with you guys? And do you guys have anything else that you're working on? Maybe Toolman, we'll begin with you.
New Tribe album, a Tribe Called Red album is on the way. It's in the finishing process right now. I've just started working on an old collaborator of mine. Like his name is Sazy. Me and him started since the quarantine. Me and him have been reconnected and like started doing more of a grimy record, and I'm really happy that I'm going to be able to do that. Me and Harvey is working again, so we're working on some new stuff, and yeah, man, just making beats every day. But like I'm mostly on Instagram these days, so just Toolman on Instagram. That's it.
Hey man, when you and Bear Witness are done with the album, give us a shout, man. Let's have another chat.
Yes, let's do it.
That's
awesome. What about you, man?
I mean, as you kind of introed, I put out an album called Forever is a Pretty Long Time in February.
How fitting, eh? Considering the current situation.
It's eerie, certainly. I mean, I probably should be capitalizing, but I'm not going to be that guy. But but that just came out. So Google me, ELAQUENT. Otherwise, right now I'm kind of just flirting with just different ideas as far as what I want to do. I mean, I guess the one silver lining of, this whole lockdown thing is, I guess, just out of boredom or just by force, I've just been in the lab just making beats. So I haven't decided if I just want to put out another instrumental album or just stockpile them, save them for a rainy day. But, I kind of want to get more into, some like, into more like IG Live or Twitch or something like that. So, so right now I'm kind of just, brainstorming, jotting down ideas, but, whatever I do, folks who follow me, Twitter, Instagram, not Facebook. I never really use that anymore. But yeah, Twitter and Instagram. So at ELAQUENT to find out what I'm doing. And, and just keep working. And
wasn't there a small film that you were working on too? I thought there was.
It's funny you mention that. So when we finished the album, Forever is a Pretty Long Time, and I hit up the homie Motel, who we kind of did the whole album rollout, and I had this idea. Thank you. I had this idea of basically treating the album release like a movie. So I had him do up all these like mock movie posters and stuff like that.
Okay.
And then he did the trailer, but then people thought I was legitimately putting out a movie. So then I kind of felt like, oh, now I have to like give them something. Yeah. So obviously being forced indoors is kind of altered some of those plans, but whenever we got the go ahead, who knows? I might. Who knows? If there's any money left in the budget, maybe we'll do a short film or something. No promises though.
No worries, man. When that happens, give us a shout. We'd love to promote it. Boys, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate this. This really flew by, and I can't wait to have you guys on again. So thanks so much for joining us. We're going to take a quick commercial break here on News Talk Saga 960 AM, and we'll be right back with more New Theory Radio.
Theory Radio.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwal. I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And a few weeks ago, I was a part of a wonderful initiative held by Access Charity. It was their Bright Ideas Pitch Competition. And if you remember last week, we had a wonderful group that was a recipient of some of the grant funding that they were rewarding some local organizations by the name of Stay Woke. And we got to learn more about the work that they're doing in the community and just what went into their pitch. Now we're going to profile another amazing group that was also a recipient of some grant funding courtesy of this program, and it is the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council. And what's fascinating about this council is they really, first and foremost, I think it's wonderful because it's run by a group of high school students. But secondly, they recognize that although humans should be equal, each experience struggles that are unique to our personal and cultural identities should be emphasized. And they really put an emphasis on the oppression that's felt because of different privileges of different groups that might have or might not have. And they really want to help youth better navigate issues that are related to culture, oppression, racism, and identity. And I'm very honored to have them here on the show to talk more about that. I have from the BMYC, I have Jashnoor and Vidhi. Thank you, ladies, for joining me here on New Theory Radio. How's it going?
Thank you so much, Nat, for having us. It's been an honor, and we're super excited.
And you know what? In normal circumstances, I would have loved to have you guys in studio and give you guys the full radio experience. But we are doing this on Skype because we are practicing social distancing. So I do commend you guys for making the time on this beautiful Saturday afternoon as we're recording this. It's really nice outside, so I hope you guys go out for a walk and continue to practice social distancing. But I remember going back to the event a few weeks ago, and I was very intrigued by your presentation and your pitch involving the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council and a series of events that you guys wanted to put on for the upcoming school year. And what I was very impressed by was the way you guys presented your pitch. I remember it was a group of, was it 5 individuals that you guys had on stage? Was it 5 or 6?
Yes, it was 5.
And it was very well rehearsed, very, very, very strongly presented. As someone who works in business on a full-time basis and presentations being a key part of what I do, I was very just taken aback by the skill that I saw and the way that you guys took the pitch seriously. But I think a lot of that really stems from passion. So I'd be curious just from the get-go, and maybe Jashnoor, we'll begin with you. What really drove you to be a part of the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council? And then we'll get Vidhi's take on that as well.
So personally, I first joined the council at the same time as Vidhi after my grade 10 year. So I was really getting more involved with things around my school in grade 10, but I wasn't really that much involved in like the community. And so I actually found out about BMYC on Instagram, and I was really curious about what it was. And I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to connect with other youth in the community who are not just in my school. Since I wanted to expand and go do things more in my community as well. And so I actually applied on like a whim and actually ended up becoming Director of External Relations along with Vidhi. And so I joined not only because I wanted to expand my own experiences, but I actually wanted to get more involved in the community and actually like give back, because I believed I had like the time to do so. And so it was a wonderful experience in grade 11. We did like a lot of things such as like multicultural holiday showcase, and then we actually did the Access charity pitch then too, and then we received funding for a new series that we started called Brampton. So all
Excellent.
of that was just stemmed from my personal passions and actually just to get more involved, and it has been a wonderful experience since.
And Vidhi, I understand that you're the president of the BMYC. What drove you to be a part of the organization?
So basically the same thing as Jashnoor. This year we both decided to take on the position of co-pres for our council. And I think it's because we started from the very beginning, grade 11, as a Director of External Relations. I personally joined this council because for my first earlier school life, I lived in Toronto, and it was a completely different culture over there. Just familiarity with the council and getting to know the structure of the school boards, it was completely different. So when I moved over to Brampton, I noticed that I felt more like home, just perhaps because the South Asian culture is quite diverse, I'd say. So then in grade 11, grade 10, grade 11, I found out from a friend about this organization, and I decided to try it out, to take a step in the community. And I think that it's been a quite great experience. It's taught me to sort of stem out and move out from my just local school, because Turner French, and you've been there. It's a very obviously, yeah, it's a very diverse school, but also has a lot of activities going on within the school as well. But a lot of the students don't tend to branch out and go to different areas outside of the community as well. So that's something that I wanted to do. And then this year we wanted to further our goals, and we wanted to further accomplish. And I think Josh and I both really liked what this organization stood for. So we decided to sort of take on the president role this year, and it's been pretty good so far.
Yeah, and I find that amazing. And again, Jashnoor, I totally forgot that you two are also a president of this organization. So again, to have two strong female leads is fantastic. But I do find it interesting when it comes to both of your journeys, how again, I think getting involved in high school, even when I think back to my time at Turner Fenton, was so crucial in regards to the person I ended up becoming later in life. And being somebody in his early 30s, I do look back at my years in high school as really showcasing and allowing me to get out of my shell. But what I love about what you guys are doing is you guys have taken that a step further, and you're joining up with other high school students across the board or other organizations. And I think that's crucial. And I think being as young as you guys are, it is easy to stay siloed and, to be a part of the anime club at high school and do your thing. And there's nothing wrong with the anime club. But I think you really do get a lot of great learning when you decide to be a part of something that's bigger than your school. And it's really about creating impact. What would you say, in its existence or during the time that you guys have been co-presidents, has been sort of the biggest impact that you've been seeing with the BMYC?
So this year actually has been a roller coaster from for me and Vidhi from the start, ending off with quarantine, and even at beginning we had some problems with getting some of our funding from last year settled out. So that was a huge barrier at the beginning. So it really inspired our council to get more creative with what we were doing, because we had that barrier from the beginning. Since we had problems with our account, we didn't actually have access to the funds for the events that we were planning to host. So we really got more creative in what we were doing, and we actually started a podcast on Spotify, and it was called Teenage Tea with BMYC. And so I think that has been a huge thing that we've started this year, and we hope that the council continues it for years to come. We talk about many things that are relevant to us as well, and we currently it's some individuals from our council, and as well some of our ambassadors. We might not have mentioned this previously. We also have like an ambassador team as well, which we used to be on like a bi-weekly basis before the quarantine started. And so that has been a huge thing. And then Vidhi, continue.
Yeah, just to sort of elaborate on that, what's really cool about our council is that we're a group of high school students. So it is hard for us to get sort of like the bank account set it up and get like ourselves registered as an actual nonprofit. So something that we did this year was that we set up a board of directors.
Nice.
And basically they're past alumni from BMYC that have now graduated and are doing really cool things outside in the world. And they've sort of come back and they're helping us form like the basis of the board, I guess, where we can, consult for them for legal advice. We have a couple of lawyers in the making on our board, so that's pretty cool. So I think we've really used the board of directors as sort of our backup, and we've used them to get our bank account set up and get our entire funding in line. And this year really has been a focus on not only promoting our voice and our impact, but it's also been about sort of clearing the foundation, sort of building the foundation for the next years to come. We really want to make sure that the future presidents that do come in this place have a clear path from now on and have sort of everything in line, have people who they can talk to. And as Jashnoor mentioned, we do have ambassadors from all around Brampton and Mississauga, some from Mississauga as well. And I think it's really cool to see how there's obviously, within a community, there's like certain schools that are quite popular, like Turner Fenton or Central Peel. But it's pretty interesting to see how there's other schools like Brampton Centennial. We have some from Castlebrook and we have some from St. Aquinas last year. So it's pretty cool to see how there's different schools that are also catering towards our council and sharing their voices from their side of the city as well.
And that's fantastic. And I'm glad that you guys are diving deep into your alumni network, because I think that's where you truly can extend a lot of your initiatives, is by tapping into alumni who have been in your positions previously, have now either gone through schooling or now in the real world. And again, what's fascinating too is a lot of what you guys addressed, or a lot of the mission around sort of this understanding of other people's cultures and traditions that the BMYC wants to focus on. These things don't just stop at high school. Like, they continue on in university, they continue on even in the workplace. Like, I think about how diversity is still a big challenge in a lot of workplaces. Like, people just don't understand how to truly embrace it. They don't understand what necessarily goes into a Diwali or a Ramadan for people, right? Like, they just assume that status quo, that, okay, so-and-so celebrates that, let them celebrate it, without actually maybe embracing it, or allowing, using a method of embracing what some of these initiatives are to maybe better relationships internally. What do you think has been, over the last few years, what has been a common issue that you guys have seen as high school students that keeps coming up when you think about oppression or the lack thereof knowledge towards certain cultures? Like, do you find that people are just staying closed off? Do you find that there's an opportunity to even broaden the spectrum when it comes to having these conversations? I think back to Turner Fenton, culture show was always like a big deal, right? Like, that was such a big thing that we would always be a part of, and I loved it because you saw everyone's culture come out. I'd be curious to understand, being high school students now in this day and age, what are some of the issues that keep coming up?
So if you want, I can start off with this, but I really think that right now that people are aware about it. They are aware that there's different cultures and there's different traditions everyone follows, but it's more of initiative that's a problem. I really find that students aren't willing to go out of their way to sort of learn. You sort of have to enforce it on them. So when it comes down to us running events even, we sort of have to get our ambassadors to really promote and grab their friends, and that's the only way they'll ever come out to our events. I really want to, over the next few years, I really want to see some more initiative, students willing to actually want to come to an event or a multicultural event, not just because their friends are going. And I think that's sort of like a mentality shift that we have to do as a whole, like, group of high school students.
Yeah, that's cool.
And to further add on, another issue that we've observed personally was more like everybody has their own like culture and their own traditions and celebrations that occur like throughout the year. But like really, I think that there's an opportunity for like these people of different cultures to come together and actually like learn about what other cultures or traditions actually are and what they have to offer.
Obviously, things have changed quite a bit since that Access community pitch competition, Bright Ideas pitch competition. We are now living in trying times. Obviously, we're all quarantining, practicing social distancing. How has that changed a lot of what you've been doing at the BMYC?
Well, first of all, one thing that's like really important to our council is actually like meeting in person, because we feel like when we actually get to like see each other and talk, then our brainstorming sessions are so much more productive, and it's just like a very fun thing for us to actually like meet in person and actually like discuss what's happening in our community and with our council. But because of social distancing measures, obviously that's not possible. So we've moved our whole council online. So we have our meetings via Zoom now. And in terms of signature, luckily for us, it hasn't been directly affected because we initially planned to actually run the first event in October of 2020, since it was planning to run for the 2020 to 2021 school year. So in that regard, we haven't really luckily been effective, and hopefully everything resolves by then.
And in terms of social media, or running things online, we've always had a strong social media presence through our Instagram page and our website and our Facebook page as well. But what we've been doing sort of during COVID is promoting that more and sort of ensuring that all of our social media pages are not just one way. So we're not just putting out information. We really want to interact with our audience much more, because as Jashnoor mentioned, most of our interaction with our audience is through our events and through our physical meetings. And although that is not possible right now, we really want to interact online with the students or with our high school students. So what we really wanted to do now, what we're planning on, is doing a quarantine series. So this is sort of one thing. They're basically a bunch of stories we wanted to have couple of times a week, from Mindful Mondays to Tourism Thursdays to Safety Tips Saturdays.
Nice.
And they're basically interesting little features on our Instagram page and our website as well, where we share, for example, Tourism Thursday would be allowing everyone to travel the world without traveling necessarily. We want to post cultural recipes and games and just creative things for youth to try out when they're home. And for Mindful Mondays, we'd have tips, and little provokes, I guess, sort of get them thinking about what's happening around our world and everything right now. So quarantine series is going to be launching pretty soon. So I think that's a thing we've been focusing on. And we've also had our podcast series. We did release our first episode a couple of weeks back. It's called Teenage Tea with BMYC. It's available on all platforms for Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts as well. We're really, our main concern was whether the quality would be that good on our podcast, because we did invest, as we mentioned it in our actual pitch, we did invest in a lot of podcast equipment.
Yeah. So
that's our major concern right now. But we've come to the decision that it's the best if we sort of do put out content, because it's the best if we do interact with our audience. So we're releasing more podcasts as well during this social distancing period. I
like that mentality. I think it's important to keep movements like the BMYC going despite what's going on. And this was a question that I posed to the ladies of Stay Woke last week, and I love to pose it to the BMYC. We like to theorize on here on New Theory Radio. And, outside of everything that you guys are doing on BMYC, what is your theory on what youth engagement will look like during this time? Now, it sounds like you guys have some strong ideas from a BMYC standpoint, but do you feel that youth are going to be more open to some of these ideas?
So what I've been seeing lately, not just with our council and our organization, but with several other youth organizations as well, we like to stay on our phones. I mean, we're always connected through social media, and I think it's been taking a different turn, as in there's more like actual interaction with each other, and we're asking more, in-depth questions. We're asking more bigger questions. So I think youth engagement during COVID is actually in a really good place right now, and there's so much more we can do with it. But it's mainly about us checking up on each other and making sure that all our mental health is obviously a first priority during COVID, because as much as we'd like to enforce social distancing, we can obviously promote that on our platforms. But sometimes I personally find that it is better to just sort of take a break and stop talking about COVID all the time. It can get really annoying, can get really frustrating if you're always on the news and if you're always hearing, CP24 and what's happening with corona numbers. It's very frustrating at times.
Yeah.
So I think as much as we'd like to sort of promote to our youth, you should stay in and stay 6 feet apart and all of that, we really want to make sure that their mental healths are in check, and we should promote other content as well. With a couple of other organizations a week or so ago where we sort of created a little graphic. So I think that's a really good example of how youth organizations are coming together and how they're really saying that, hey, we've got each other's back. We have to stay strong together, and sort of just put out content that's new and interesting, and that's, not only just about COVID, but about something else as well. That's important.
Amazing. This has been a great conversation, Jashnoor and Vidhi. I really appreciate the time that you guys are taking to chat with me. I know right now I guess you guys are both in grade 12 in high school.
Yeah.
This is like the graduating year, but it's under some interesting circumstances, and you guys are hopefully keeping up with all the online studies that are being thrown in your direction. But yeah, thanks again for joining us here on New Theory Radio. What's the best way for the audience to connect with BMYC if they want to peek at anything that you're working on, including these new series that you guys are going to be dropping?
So our website is an absolute wonderful tool. It has everything. It has all of our social media links as well. So please check out our website at www.bmyc.ca. And we have our Instagram page as well, which does have a lot of our content. It's called BMYC for Diversity. So check that out as well.
Awesome. Well, Jashnoor and Vidhi, thanks so much for joining us here on New Theory Radio. Go support the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council. They are truly doing wonderful work. And again, if it was around when I was a high school student, I think I definitely gravitate towards being a part of it, because I think there's a lot that can be learned at such an early age that can set you up for success later in life. And we are going to take a quick commercial break here on News Talk Saga 960 AM, and we'll be right back with more New Theory Radio in just a few moments.
Theory Radio.
And we are back here on New Theory Radio, here live on News Talk Saga 960 AM. My name is Nav Nanwell. I am your host, and this is the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. And if you are familiar with our show, you know we love supporting community, specifically arts and culture. That's a big love of ours here at NTR. And I'm very honored now to have on the show from the Rose Theater, the artistic programmer himself. He is involved in the This Is Brampton curation series, which has been a large part of the Rose's programming over the last couple of years. I have Danny Harvey joining me here on the line. Danny, thanks so much for making time for us here at New Theory Radio.
A real pleasure to be with you, man. I really I appreciate being invited.
Yeah, and you know what? I thought it'd be great to have you on, because what you've been able to do, and I love this initiative, is that This Is Brampton series was really much rooted around promoting local curators, promoting local creators, getting a lot of artists into the Rose who normally would probably never be given the opportunity to perform at the Rose, and allow them to showcase what they're doing. But obviously in the COVID-19 world that we're currently living in, performance venues have been hit hard by this, and again, with us being discouraged to getting together in large crowds, that's really changed the way that we've been enjoying music. But what you've done is you've taken your This Is Brampton series and you've brought it online with This Is Brampton live online, and I think it's truly fantastic. And I'd love to learn more about what led you to this journey and what this series is all about.
Right on. So I starting at the very beginning, a few years ago, we were having a conversation just about how Brampton doesn't have a lot of small venues. It doesn't have none, but there's not a lot of places for musicians to go play and be seen. There's a few bars, but the Toronto scene is kind of the siren call, and people go into the Toronto bars and then kind of get lost in the large music scene there. And you look at Hamilton, St. Catharines, Peterborough, they have all these incredible music scenes. So we saw that gap, and we started to look at our Studio 2 in the Rose, which is a 100-seat black box, can change shapes, can change whatever you need it to do, it can be. And we decided that we needed to connect with curators, content creators, performers that have a Brampton connection, so that we're not losing that relationship. And a lot of this, I will be honest, came from the Alessia Cara skyrocket to fame, and we had no connection with her. Mm-hmm. And we want to be part of that story. We want folks to be proud to be from Brampton. And even if you're not ever going to be famous, you're just going to be creating, you're going to be a gigging musician, you want people to see that Brampton has supported them. So that's 2 years of work in a couple sentences, but that's where this originated. So the reason I bring that up is that's kind of the spirit of what we're talking about. So when COVID-19 hit, and it was around March 19th that we started canceling the rest of the season, shutting down our venue, and that's the main stage and studio too. And it was hard. It was heavy. To cancel artists that have put together their work, big names, local folks that all were looking forward to having gigs at the Rose.
Yeah,
and that hit us pretty hard. And so as we were started dusting ourselves off after that first blow, figuring out what we can do to help the artists specifically, curators, the people that have the connections to the music industry, because I might not have all the connections. I have I'm not a hip hop guy. I'm not I like it, I enjoy it, but I don't know the folks that are on the ground doing the work. R&B, the harder rocks. I don't know that. I don't know the folks. So we connected with them, and we wanted to make sure that we can get them on our stage. And now we decided we wanted to get them into our living rooms, into wherever we're consuming art, and in our virtual chat rooms are our audiences. And so the conversation came to, like, how do we do that? How do we make sure the Rose is still a place that people can go, even if it's online, to see live performing arts, not recorded, not previous work, but real live work. So conversation with the executive artistic director, Stephen Shipper, the theater manager, Jocelyn Johnson, and Christina Rizzuto, the coordinator of marketing, and the other members of the marketing team, Katie Lehman. Those are all the folks that really were part of the initial push. And we discussed how we can really get people to see work and really digest the performances from local Brampton folks, and we can still keep the artistic economy going. We can pay these artists to perform, and also that people are still honing their craft, building a fan base, and really just making sure the Rose is a place that supports artists and supports audiences, which is really the double focus of the venue.
Yeah, and I think it's truly fantastic, man, because I think what this does for the Rose is it not only allows you guys to continually put on shows, but it almost takes you kind of outside of the venue and allows you to be this culture herder, if it makes sense. Like you're almost fostering talent. This is a great time for a lot of talent to get their reps in, to think about how they want to perform once coming out of COVID, or even just not get rusty during this time, because it can be possible when you're just sitting at home that, there is that aspect of performing that people do miss. And again, a good friend of mine is Noise, who's a rapper in Brampton. And, he was saying yesterday, just on a conversation that we were having, that when he releases new music now, he does miss being able to perform it, because he wants to go wait for him to test if the song is actually good or if it's actually resonating with people. And I think that's the crucial part that's truly missing, and I'm glad you guys are fostering that.
Yeah, and we're doing our best to, right? And there's a lot of you go into the virtual audiences, the chat rooms on Facebook and that, and it's just a love-in. There's like hearts are being mashed and the like buttons are being mashed. People are saying hi to each other and and listening to the music. And some people are tuning in for a song or two. Some people are tuning in the whole time. It's all good either way. And then you could go back and watch it again later. And it's so neat. It's funny. Like one of the things about live performances, when it's over, it's gone. But like with this, you can kind of go back and I love that tune. I want to hear that again. So it's kind of a weird thing that you don't get with the live performance. And it's, we're all missing other people. We're missing the connection. We're missing being in a place together. That's what the theater is, right? That's what a concert venue is. It's not just going to listen to the band. That's awesome. But it's going to listen to the band with a bunch of people that want to listen to the band too. And it's a shared nostalgia that we're missing. We're missing big time. And it hurts to not do. I'm in a theater, 2 or 3 times a a week usually.
Yeah.
And I'm missing it, right? I love being at home with my family. That's I suppose great. I'm missing getting out there and seeing performances. And if we can give a taste of that to people that want to see it, that's amazing. And like you said, I think you hit it. People are getting can stop them from getting rusty. They can watch the performance, look at the feedback, see what's working, what doesn't, and that's a big part of performing, is seeing what works and what doesn't. If we're allowing that opportunity to artists, maybe being custodians of the work, it makes us really, really happy. It's a big part of the Rose's mission and mandate. We're not just bricks and mortar. We're about artist development and audience development as much as anything. The idea is we're trying to make the city of Brampton a more livable city, a more culturally relevant city, a better place to be. We're one of the only cities with a full culture master plan, and this ties into it big time. Supporting local and supporting international and national, and creating an entire, but this particular program is very specifically local, but we're trying to create an entire ecosystem of artists that can learn together, grow together, and an ecosystem of consumers that people will check out all kinds of different art. We want to be everything. We want to be intercultural. We want to be hip. Although saying hip is the most unhip thing you can say, but we want to be relevant, and we want to offer pieces of people's history and things that they love, and the opportunity to see that. So if we can do any of that, even a small fragment of that online with the Rose at home, we're stoked. That makes us so happy.
It's also great because we're in this mode where content is truly everything, because people are sitting at homes, they're looking for things to do. And I also look at this as a great way to discover new talent, because, again, it's great to see that This Is Brampton programming over the last 2 years be very diverse. And I'm sure there's instances where people would love to make it out to a show, but, scheduling doesn't work out. So having the ability to showcase a lot of this online, there really isn't no excuse, right? Like, you can really check out, like you mentioned, this content whenever you want. And at the same time, maybe discover a new talent or two that could be potentially the next Alessia Carr, or someone that's going to help bring Brampton forward when it comes to the mainstream. And that's what I love about this.
And that's so true. And even for me, that I'm relatively connected to the Brampton art scene, but there's always, I'm not completely connected. There's always new folks that are coming in and doing cool things. And I'm finding that they've reached out to me through the call out, which is a good segue. We could talk about the call out to get on this. But, Maya Kiltron, who has been in our venue coming through with Class Goblins Live. I didn't know her. And she also worked with the old symphony years ago. I didn't know her. And she did a show for us the other day. And she's amazing. And now I know her, and that relationship will hopefully grow into new things, and that's going to happen with all kinds of people that are coming out here. She did a great show; it was phenomenally talented, and I had no idea who she was, and she grew up around the corner from me, right? So yeah, that's been amazing for me. It's going to be amazing for our artists and our audiences.
Yeah, I know you kicked off the series with Brampton legend himself, Carmen Spada from B Jazz. Yes. Someone who's a living embodiment of what arts and culture is all about, or the hunger that arts and culture is all about within the city. So, shout outs to Carmen. I've worked with them plenty of times in the past. And, and again, just to your point, a great segue. Right now, there is a hunger. There is sort of this desire for these artists to, number one, get these reps in, but number two, pay some bills at the same time. And I think this is great that you guys are offering this platform. So what is the process like if an artist wants to submit and be a part of it?
Well, really, the process it's relatively simple. You got to email me, danny.harvey@brampton.ca, which, I hope is okay to put on the internet.
Yeah, totally.
And then just, you got to send me a short bio, what your connection to Brampton or the Rose is. Growing up in Brampton's amazing. Going to school in Brampton's amazing. It's not necessarily all you got to be, but it helps a lot to know that you've been connected to our venue. Yeah. And because it's not necessarily Brampton firsters, but it's the idea is to help develop Brampton artists as much as anything else. So that if I get a bunch of submissions, being from or of Brampton really will help. artists, they have to, when they're performing, they have to demonstrate social distancing, and the streaming quality has to be there. Mm-hmm. So they've got to send me a sample, just a little video sample of what the Facebook Live or Instagram Live stream is going to be. I prefer Facebook Live. We have a larger following on Facebook, and it's hard to transfer the Instagram onto Facebook in the same way. But just show me what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, just a 1-minute clip or a song, whatever they want to do. And then, they have to have 30 to 60 minutes worth of material. Rose marketing team will create assets that they've got to share, and I need them to talk about on their social media when the concert's going to be, and a little bit about their connection to Brampton, that sort of thing. And that's really all it's got to be. It's just show me what you're capable of, and email it to me, and tell me your bio and why you're connected to Brampton.
Amazing, very straightforward, very. I would say somewhat easy to get involved. And I think, right now when it comes to artists, I think they're already thinking in ways of how they can get creative from a live streaming standpoint. And I've seen a lot of creativity, even just amongst mainstream artists regarding, dressing up their rooms or, playing with lighting and all that.
Absolutely.
To really, it's very, and you'd appreciate this with your theater background, but you're seeing a lot of theatrics come into life now, which I think is fascinating. And I think this is a great opportunity to do that as we're thinking outside the box.
It's a good reason to get out of sweatpants. Like, honestly, like people are dressing like they're leaving their house.
I'll
take that right now.
Dude, I'm terrified to put my jeans on. I haven't worn jeans in like 6 weeks. I don't know what that's going to look like.
I'm one of those bread people. I've eaten about a loaf of bread a day. So my COVID-19 is for the amount of pounds I've gained. So,
the COVID-19. Yep, definitely. It's a different meaning. Just out of curiosity, because Danny, we do like to theorize on New Theory Radio. Do you think coming out of COVID-19 and with the sort of the Rose presenting this offering, do you think this will open up other opportunities for the Rose in the future? Like, if this series was to work out? Obviously the bread and butter is you guys opening up the theater and getting more live shows in there. But do you think this opens up some opportunities for the Rose to do more things online that maybe are benefiting artists?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And that's something we've been talking about. Like, this series does not need to die at all. There could be times when I'm spitballing, and this is not a promise at all, but like you say an artist does a show in the on the main hall, we could maybe get them to do a couple tunes that we live stream at soundcheck or after, or we could even live stream parts of a show that they're doing in the studio. Obviously not the whole thing. We want people to come, like, we're theater. You're supposed to come to the theater. Totally. But we can definitely talk about how we can integrate this technology and then the boom for it right now into our venue a little bit more. I really do think that this is going to change the way we consume live art. It's already been changing, but this has accelerated it. And I think that there will be a hunger for this. There'll be a desire for it. We obviously want people to buy tickets. That's what keeps us all the doors open. And the artist paid, but there's something to this, something more to this.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, Danny, thanks so much for coming on New Theory Radio. And again, just plug one last time. If somebody wants to submit, what's the best way to do so?
You email me at danny.harvey@brampton.ca. That's danny.harvey@brampton.ca. Send me a 1-minute video, your connection to Brampton, and that's perfect. That's all you got to do.
Awesome. We'll include that information in the podcast bio as well as a link to the application. And we'll definitely do our part here at NTR to get the word out. And again, congrats to you and the Rose. You guys are very creative over there. And I love the fact that you guys are thinking outside the box and really still providing artists opportunities, especially during this time of needs. Thanks so much. We are going to take a quick commercial break here on New Theory Radio, and we'll be right back after this brief commercial message.
You are listening to New Theory Radio. Theory Radio.
we are back here on News Talk Saga 960 AM. You are tuned in to New Theory Radio, the show where we theorize on all things current affairs, pop culture, and everyday life. My name is Nav Nanwa. I'm your host, and this unfortunately concludes this week's edition of NTR. Special thanks to my guest, Tim Toolman Hill from A Tribe Called Red, producer extraordinaire Eloquent, the Brampton Multicultural Youth Council, so shouts to Jashnoor and Vidhi, and lastly, Danny Harvey, the artistic programmer for the Rose Theater in Brampton. If you missed this week's episode, it will air again on Monday from 8 to 10 p.m. here on Saga 960 AM. And then the podcast version will be out on Tuesday via iTunes and Spotify. If you want to connect with me, it is at @nnanwa on Twitter, at navnanwa on Instagram. If you want to connect with New Theory Radio on social media, it is at New Theory Radio across all platforms. Please connect to our station at Saga 960 AM for all the latest updates. Special shout outs to the king of our graphics at Colorblind Photography _ aka my little brother Amit Nanwa. Go give him a follow on Instagram. Special shout outs to our theme song producer, the legend himself at Dusty Loops. Go support him and his instrumental album that he has out, which is currently available at noisehiphop.bandcamp.com. And it's a wrap. I urge you to stay indoors, stay inside, keep practicing social distancing, and we will all get through this together. Thanks so much for tuning in, and you will hear all of us next time. Peace.